WXIA-TV, 11 Alive, Atlanta.
Good evening, I'm Ellen Burstein. A series of tornadoes touched down in Alabama and Georgia tonight, but fortunately there are no reports of any deaths. The worst damage appeared in Pine Mountain, where an auto dealership and a restaurant were demolished. In Fayette County, several hundred people are spending the night without power. A twister touched down around Lowry and Brooks, snapping power lines and pine trees in two. Several homes were damaged as trees fell, and some barns were ripped apart, but fortunately, again, no one was killed. Alabama officials say a tornado in Opelika injured 13 people. They and another 15 people had to be treated, but again, there were no deaths. As we just told you, it's been a very volatile weather situation. Meteorologist Steve Brown has been charting the storm's progression, and he has the latest information. Steve?
Thank you, Ellen. It was that same system that came out of Opelika late this afternoon that moved across Pine Mountain, Georgia, Fayette County, and then was last reported in Jonesboro. But at the present time, the tornado watch that was in effect for all of North Georgia has expired. We take a look here at color pinpoint radar, and you can see that most of the rain that was in the activity has moved now well to our east, and there's still some heavy activity north of Macon, also out around the Athens area, but it's all moving away. So the tornado watch is all over. We can all breathe a little sigh of relief. It looks like the weather is beginning to improve. I'll be back with full details later in the newscast. Ellen?
Okay, thank you, Steve. The racially troubled town of Wrightsville was quiet today, but civil rights leaders say demonstrations may start again if local government leaders don't meet with protesters. And 45 of the 150 state troopers called in to prevent violence in Saturday's demonstration are still on duty in Wrightsville. Johnson County Sheriff Roland Attaway says some state patrol officers will stay until things have calmed down. Some residents say once the troopers leave, trouble will start again. The economy continues to be a major worry, and Idaho Senator Frank Church says the situation is much, much worse than anyone imagines. Senator Church says he's seen the first signs of a severe depression in his state. He predicts it will strike the whole country soon if high interest rates don't drop.
Unless interest rates begin to come down, this country is headed toward an economic collapse. Depression has already struck my state, and my state's typical of many others. Farmers have to have credit to plant their crops, and they cannot pay these interest rates. And I remember that the last Great Depression began on the farm. And if we don't do something soon to bring these interest rates down, we're going to see what the Eastern papers like to call a recession turn into a deep depression in this country.
Ted Kennedy feels the economy is the reason why his campaign is moving ahead. Kennedy won more delegates than President Carter in Arizona's weekend caucus. And now Kennedy feels he can turn the economy issue into an even more crucial win in Pennsylvania.
Kennedy was campaigning in Pennsylvania when the news from the West arrived, and he spent the day smiling and thanking the state of Arizona. He said the people there voted for him because they now realize that the economy is the issue. And he added that the Arizona victory might make the president think about campaigning outside the White House.
And I think yesterday that Jimmy Carter found that there's a little cactus there growing in the Rose Garden as well.
He spoke to this convention of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which is one of the many powerful unions supporting his candidacy. Kennedy asked for their help in keeping up the momentum in the Pennsylvania primary 9 days from now.
Are we going to do as well in Pennsylvania? Let's hear it.
Kennedy says he will do well here, but he already trails the president more than 2-to-1 in delegates, and his strategy now is to win the remaining big states, to convince voters and delegates that he is the one that's electable. But for that strategy to even have a chance, he must win here. Mike Von Fremd, ABC News, with the Kennedy campaign in Philadelphia.
According to an American member of the International Olympic Committee, the Summer Games in Moscow could be called off if the U.S. gets key backing for its boycott. The Olympic official says the committee doesn't want to see any half-baked games. That's just what might happen if President Carter gets enough major allies to go along with his boycott. He's been appealing to our allies in Europe and Japan to go along with the boycott in protest over the Soviets' invasion of Afghanistan. So far, America's allies are answering with definite maybes. Iran is not only having trouble with the United States, but tension is growing between Iraq and Iran. A top Iranian military official is quoted as saying 3 warships and a naval brigade from Iraq have taken up strategic positions in the Persian Gulf. 2 of the ships are reportedly near the Iranian coast. Meanwhile, tomorrow, day 163 for the American hostages will bring a change in their routine. The militants holding the U.S. Embassy in Tehran say they'll allow a member of the International Red Cross to visit the hostages. However, it's not known if the Red Cross official will be permitted to see all of the Americans. The IRS wants your taxes filed by midnight Tuesday. The story when Newsroom continues. The big annual rush is on to the mailbox. Midnight Tuesday is the deadline for filing your 1979 income tax returns. The Internal Revenue Service expects nearly 93 million Americans to meet the deadline or at least request an extension. Many of the taxpayers who filed early returns are getting early rewards. Refunds are averaging more than $590, up by $100 from last year. The week-long Atlanta Dogwood Festival is over, and while it was a big success, there were a few disappointed participants. The festival's familiar auto auction drew a lot of lookers to the Civic Center. Lookers, not the buyers of years past. Many of the auctioneers say today's turnout proves how depressed our economy has become.
With the tight money, it's hard for guys to get the loans and invest in the cars. But we feel that in 1973 and 74 we saw the same problems, and it picked right back up after the recession ceased. So we feel that within 6 months it will be right back up on top.
Some car dealers say it will be hard for them to make ends meet because of the lowered sales at today's auction. As you know, the weather put a damper on a lot of outdoor activities. But one area group was not about to let the mud and rain ruin its plans.
For a while this morning, it looked as though a posse was heading the wrong way, heading into the Atlanta Pen. But these 40 riders got to the right place, not by a judge's order, but by their own free will. They came to take part in the Penn's 19th annual Western Horse Show.
The men really appreciate something like this. They can see children as well as adults perform, and it's truly our family affair. And some of the exhibitors who first started out with us, now their children are performing, so it's sort of a second-generation thing.
Usually there's a good turnout. However, today's wet weather kept all but the most intrepid away. For those avid horse fans who did show, there were neck-and-neck races put on by the outsiders. Like the Wellborn family from Clarkston, there's just one reason to show up year after year in such a dismal arena.
We all get out and we all enjoy it. It's in our blood, I guess.
For some of the inmates, the annual show sparks thoughts of better days.
I live on a farm, and my friend's got about 6 horses and about 5 ponies, cows.
So it reminds you of home?
Yes, ma'am, it does. I wish I could ride one myself out there, but they won't allow it.
The organizers say they'll keep putting these shows on for as long as the pen is in operation. Jean Marie Kelly, 11 Alive News.
Meteorologist Steve Brown updates us on weather conditions when Newsroom continues. Have we seen the worst? Is it over yet?
I think so, Ellen, but I qualify that a little bit because there is another line of thunderstorms trying to build back in Alabama. The wind here in Georgia is still howling out of the south. We're still in unstable tropical air. If that line of thunderstorms in Alabama moves eastward later tonight, it'll be during the wee hours. It could reach severe levels later on. We'll have more on that as the night goes on. First, let's take a look at the record books, and it shows our coldest for the date was all the way down to 28 degrees in 1940, the warmest 85 in 1966. Today we had a humid 70 degrees for a high after a morning low of 56, and a little bit over an inch of rain fell here in Atlanta, some heavier amounts across the northern half of the state, as much as 2 and 3 inches. Our temperature now is 67 degrees, 19 on the Celsius scale. Humidity is still sky high. The air is still tropical in nature, 87%. The barometer is extremely low, 29.62, and that indicates very unstable air, and it's still falling, which has me worried a little bit, and the winds are screaming from the south at 22 miles per hour. The action began late this afternoon. We plotted a tornado, first reported down the Auburn, Alabama area, and it moved across Opelika about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and it moved just north of Columbus, touched down at varying intervals, but there was some damage reported north of Columbus, several inches in Pine Mountain, Georgia. That was about 4 o'clock this afternoon, and just about at the time of our early newscast, a tornado was reported in Jonesboro, moving toward the northeast, but that was the last time it touched down in Georgia. The next time was way up in South Carolina. Thank goodness for that. Temperatures now in the 60s, and most of the rain has ended. But first, let's take a review of what happened during the day today. We taped color pinpoint radar starting early this morning, and it shows a little bit. It can help to show you how that tornado formed way down here. Now, this is early this morning. At this time, we had thunderstorms rumbling across much of North Georgia, and we were worried more at that time about flash flood potential. But watching the area here just north of Montgomery, this is the area where the tornado, the thunderstorms that spawned it, I think this is it right here, was responsible for moving toward the northeast, moving north of Columbus. And you can see an area of red down here, and here it is. It's moving over the Pine Mountain, Georgia area. This is it just about the time. It was just before it had moved into Jonesboro and then just southeast of Atlanta. Now, most of that activity has moved to the east, and you can see that there is still some showers back here in Alabama. And again, I mentioned the possibility that some of those storms could reach severe levels later on. From the GO satellite, our picture still shows the humid, unstable tropical air streaming up across Georgia. Also a band of clouds back here across the Mississippi Valley, but those are not thunderstorm clouds. Those are actually snow clouds. They've had up to 4 inches of snow reported in parts of Arkansas. And that's the contrast of air mass, very cold air west of this low pressure system, contrasting with unstable, warm, humid tropical air here in the southeast that was responsible for our severe weather here in Georgia today. The cold front still in Alabama has not yet gone through. Until it goes through, the threat here is not completely over, although as you saw there on color pinpoint radar, it looks like most of the activity for the moment has ended. This low will track out rapidly toward the northeast. By morning, the cold, unstable air will be taking over. Temperatures will drop tomorrow, and I think the rain here will be all done by early tomorrow morning. So our forecast looks like this. For tonight, we'll have a low of 52, and again, still the potential for thunderstorms in the wee hours of this morning. Tomorrow, a lot cooler, 60 degrees. I think we'll have partial clearing. The rain should be over early tomorrow morning. The winds tomorrow will be brisk out of the west at 15 to 25 miles per hour with higher gusts. And our 5-day forecast calls for the partly cloudy skies tomorrow, high near 60. Still a lot of clouds and very cool on Tuesday. It'll be down in the 30s as some of that Arkansas cold air comes in Tuesday morning, upper 50s in the afternoon. Then finally we get back to some spring-like weather by the end of the week with sunshine Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Good. So the threat isn't completely over until the cold front goes by. But at least for the time being, things are quiet. And I'll be here monitoring the situation over the next couple of hours.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Georgia wasn't the only area hit by stormy weather today. New Orleans was hit by 5 inches of rain. It caused water to gush into the lobbies of skyscrapers, and it brought out a big Louisiana foe, water moccasins.
It fell in buckets. That's how the National Weather Service described it. Before the rain stopped this morning, 5 inches fell in 5 hours. 3 feet of water blocked streets and swamped homes throughout the city. Residential areas sustained the brunt of the storm. Tourist areas like the French Quarter fared much better. Evacuation centers were hurriedly set up for those fleeing their homes. Some had to be rescued from their doorsteps. Authorities have warned anyone venturing into the water to beware of poisonous snakes and fire ants. Already the flood has claimed the lives of 2 people. Both drowned when their boats capsized in separate incidents. In Hawnville, 20 miles east of New Orleans, a twister destroyed 17 trailer homes. 3 people were hurt. No one was killed, even though the tornado hit while everyone was asleep.
When I woke up, the trailer was turning over, and I started to run. I was running up the side of the trailer and the roof of the trailer, and the bottom of the trailer fell on top of me, and the bed was in between me and the bottom of the trailer.
The storm dumped so much rain that drainage canals simply couldn't handle the onslaught. Hundreds of residents pitched in to help sandbag this canal to keep it from overflowing into their homes. Damage from the flood will run into the millions of dollars. For now, the rain has ended. and drainage pumps, which normally keep New Orleans dry, are working overtime to catch up with what has fallen. Howard Murphy for ABC News, New Orleans.
In addition,
the Hawks are up against Philadelphia once again at the Omni. Jim Huber has highlights, and the rest of the day in sports when Newsroom continues.
Wow, Crystal craving. Come by Crystal tomorrow morning and catch our disappearing act. Crystal's delicious new biscuits. All hot and flaky, with zesty sausage or good old country ham. People crave them so much they disappear about as fast as they come out of the oven.
Here they come.
Get them at the counter or our drive-through window. Crystal's disappearing act. It's now you see them, now you don't.
New Crystal biscuits. Wow, Crystal craving. Wow.
Well, it was a disappointing night for the Hawks and their fans.
Yeah, it really was. Steve and the Weather Bureau forgot one tornado that touched down here tonight in the area, ripped right through a jam-packed Omni, leaving the Hawks in shambles. Final score, Philadelphia 76ers 107-83, and it could have been much worse. 76ers thus take their third victory in 4 games of this best-of-7 playoff series, and they go back to Philadelphia for game number 5 on Tuesday night. Hawks could face elimination. But remember last year, same story, only the Washington Bullets had a 3-1 lead over the Hawks going back home, only to have the Hawks send that one to 7 games. Tonight, well, the devastation came in the second half, and this should show you how and why. It was tied at 46. Philadelphia then blew it wide open. Cheeks with the driving layup. Then Irving with the steal and the reverse dunk. Watch it. Oh. Watch the great move here by Dawkins as the 76ers move at will. It seems 76ers outscored Atlanta 61-37 in the second half, led by 30 at one point. Now this could have been one of the great plays of all time here, Dr. Julius Irving. But this could have been the turning point if you're looking for such things. Hawks try to come back. This drive by Eddie Johnson would have cut the 76er margin to just a dozen early in the fourth quarter. Jack Madden calls it an offensive foul. Philadelphia goes on to a blowout. Game number 5 on Tuesday night in Philadelphia. Around the rest of the NBA playoffs tonight, again that score, 107-83, Philadelphia over Atlanta. Boston 100-81 over Houston. Boston now has a 3-1 lead in that series. In the Western Conference, Phoenix defeated Los Angeles 127-101. LA still leads that one 3-1. Seattle 112-107 over Milwaukee. That series is tied at 2. In that Boston blowout, they now lead 2-0, or 3-0 rather, not 3-1. Tiny Archibald led the Celtics to that big victory today with 20 points. We're going to take a look at the highlights from that one. He got points from outside, inside, just about everywhere. There he is, the little fellow from the Boston Celtics hitting them. Larry Bird had 18. Watch 2 of them coming here on the fast break. He gets the pass back from Ford, gets it home. With the alley-oop return favor, again at the other end of the court, Ford, the half court to Bird, and it's a runaway. Celtics win by 19, move on in the playoffs. Well, the Braves, the poor Braves. They lost their 4th of the season this afternoon, their 3rd shutout in those 4, again to the Reds up in Cincinnati, 5-0. Phil Niekro took the loss again. Niekro started and pitched pretty well until the 3rd inning when singles beat him. Dave Concepcion drove in the 1st run. Danny Dreesen will drive in the 2nd. Again, another seeing eye single. And then in the 6th inning, with the bases loaded and 1 away in the score, 3-0, Bobby Cox lifted. Phil Niekro went with the reliever Larry Bradford, whose first pitch to Ken Griffey was not a very wise one. It doesn't seem at this time. He parks it in right field. 2 more runs score. The ball game is basically history. They lose at 5-0. Braves move on now to Houston for 2 starting tomorrow. Let's take a look at the full schedule of Major League action again. It was 5-0. Cincinnati over Atlanta. Another similar score, New York Mets 5-0 over Chicago in 10 innings. Montreal 5-4 over Philadelphia. Pittsburgh shut out St. Louis 3-0. Houston 4-2 over Los Angeles. And a final, San Francisco 3-1 over San Diego. In the American League, it was Chicago 5-2 over Baltimore. Boston defeated Milwaukee this afternoon 3-1. Kansas City 3-2 over Detroit. Yankees swept a pair from Texas 9-4 and 8-2. Oakland 4-1 over Minnesota. California 8-3 over Cleveland. And Seattle defeated Toronto 5-1. The Masters got its youngest champion ever today, its 2nd foreign champion ever, but it wasn't the blowout everyone expected as Severiano Ballesteros, a suave Spaniard, came home to wear the green coat. He went into the final round leading by 7 shots. He upped that to 10, but then came the 12th hole and the water, and he lost 2 shots. And then came the 13th hole and the water, and he lost another shot. It looked like he was coming apart here.
And at that moment, Gibby Gilbert and the rest of the tour making its move on him. But on the par 5, 15th, he missed the eagle here. It settles for a birdie, and that was all she wrote. He had survived the butterflies to win by 4 and accept the prestigious green jacket from last year's champion Fuzzy Zeller. Gibby Gilbert and Jack Newton finished tied for second place at 9 under par. Hubert Green was all alone in third place. David Graham, 7 under par in fourth place. And then the logjam begins. Pate, Kite, Nelson, Crenshaw, and Fiore all at 283. Meanwhile, up in Raleigh, North Carolina today, Amy Alcott ran away with an LPGA tournament, finishing 4 shots ahead of Donna Capone-Young and 5 up on Dot Germain. David Pearson survived the rain and a series of early accidents to win the Rebel 500 stock car race up in Darlington, South Carolina today. Race was stopped after 158 laps because of darkness, that coming after 2.5 hours in the pits because of the heavy rain. This was the kind of day it was just about everywhere, and especially at Road Atlanta today. Watch the rooster tails. Around the track they go. In the IMSA GTU race today, Walt Boren in his number 7, the Mazda RX-7, won. Here you see him coming and splashing. It was a wet day, and there you see him getting wet in victory circle. In the Kelly Girl Challenge race, Atlanta's Gene Felton driving number 96, a Skylark, was the winner, and he also gets to celebrate with a little bubbly in winner's circle. There he is, getting wet inside. Number 95, Bill Whittington, one of the Road Atlanta owners, took the GT race in his Porsche Turbo. Hurley Haywood was second. He goes to the victory circle to help Bill Whittington celebrate. And as the day got worse, the final race was the Champion Spark Plug Challenge race, won by Rob McFarland. A lot of spin-outs. Nobody really hurt. Just a good day to stay inside, whether it was indoors or inside a car. And finally, well, what a way to start a story on the Flames. And finally, it could well be just that. The end of a very brief romance between a city and a hockey team. They were eliminated once again from the opening round of the playoffs last night, and the rumors persist that they will be sold, well, to another city, perhaps Calgary. I am leaning the other way at the moment. Friends who cover the New York Rangers for the New York Press tell me there's a good, strong chance the Flames will be sold to the Meadowlands, not this next season, but the following one. Others, of course, say Atlanta's civic pride will keep the team here. Only Tom Cousins, the Flames owner, really knows for sure, and as free as he is with his words, we may have to wait to see if there is ice in the Omni next fall to really know for sure. One Stanley Cup final tonight, Boston 8-3 over Pittsburgh to tie that series at 2 games apiece. And Al Thornwell has resigned as the Atlanta Chiefs chairman of the board. Bob Wussler, the former president of CBS Television, takes his place. Now, of course, this all means very little to you, I know, but just in case you're keeping a scorecard, Thornwell will wear number 73 for the Braves now. Wussler takes number 1 for the Chiefs, and Ted Turner continues to shuffle his deck. And that's the sports for Sunday night.
Okay, thank you, Jim. We'll have more from the newsroom right after this. And finally, Wisconsin Governor Lee Dreyfus is feuding with the Wisconsin Honey Producers Association. It all started at a meeting last month when the governor commented that his wife didn't like honey because it was bee poop. Well, that really stirred up a hornet's nest. The beekeepers accused the governor of insensitivity. The governor wrote them a stinging letter saying there were more important things to worry about than how bees produce poop. That's the newsroom for Sunday evening. Steve?
Very funny. The tornado watch has ended, and it looks like, with a little bit of luck, we'll make it through the rest of the night without any severe weather. We'll monitor the situation in the next couple of hours. Jim?
It is really sudden death for the Atlanta Hawks now. They trail the 76ers 3 games to 1 in their best-of-7 quarterfinal series in the NBA playoffs. They go to Philly on Tuesday night for what could be the end, could be the beginning again. Ellen?
For Jim, Steve, and the rest of the newsroom team, I'm Ellen Burstein. Have a terrific week, and we'll see you next weekend. Good night.
In tune with Atlanta. 11 alive.
Listen to this.
Z93 plays more music, and I like it best.
Z93.
That's remarkable.
Z93 is a remarkable radio station.
Over 500 miles on one tank full of fuel. It's a diesel-powered 1980 Cadillac. That's Columbus, Ohio to New York City. That's Kansas City to Dallas, Texas. That's Los Angeles to the Grand Canyon. Over 500 miles on one tank full. That's the diesel-powered 1980 Sedan DeVille, Coupe DeVille, and Fleetwood Brougham, each with an EPA estimate of 21 mpg. Cadillac 1980 at your Cadillac dealer now.